Hey folks, so in this video I'm going to talk about the detrimental effects that traditionalism and upholding the status quo has on men in society. I came across a post on Facebook, and essentially it said that men aren't cared about in society unless they are able to fulfill the role expected of them as a provider, and that the only value that they have in society is if they are, deemed successful or useful. And I am of the opinion that that only really affects the men who desire to fit themselves into the status quo to begin with. Those men who chase after rigid traditionalism, those men who go after conservatism and think that that is the standard for which they should live and base their being off of, then yes, that's going to affect them negatively because they are putting that yoke on themselves. Non-traditionalist men tend not to give a shit about that stuff. We don't care. We really don't. You have to realize that the only person you really have to live for in life is yourself. You have to have some measure of individuality about you if you hope to escape that dreadful place of always caring about what society thinks and always feeling the need to be valued by society and seen as useful. Because that really does affect those who chase after that image. I mean, if you want to mold yourself according to what society says a man should be, you are shooting yourself in the foot. That is when you have to make up in your mind that you're going to live for yourself or you're going to live for society. And essentially, the men who decided that they're going to live their lives based on what society thinks and feels about them, they are adversely affected by that outcome. They're always trying to make themselves appeal to the status quo. They're always trying to uphold it. They're always trying to seem useful and successful so that they can have the stimulation of being valued by society, as if that really means anything. They're putting value in all the wrong places. And really the key to getting out of that, again, is having a sense of individuality, knowing that you should live your own life for yourself. I mean, if you want to chase after success, let it be because you want it to be for yourself. Let it be because you want to succeed for yourself and not for the expectations that society has laden upon you to fulfill. And, the double whammy here is that a lot of these guys end up falling into all the traps that push them further and further into this emotional baggage. They end up getting married and they end up having children. And really that makes it a lot harder for you to get out, because the moment that you create the nuclear family, quote unquote, the moment you get married, the moment you have children, you are binding yourself to a role that you really don't want. Once you have kids, it's over. You don't really have any more freedom at all. Your resources, if you're a good father, if you intend to be a good one, goes toward raising your children. It goes towards sustaining the family. And so the key really is the rebellion towards that. If you want to be less stressed, if you want to be more free from what society thinks about you, and you want to live a life that is essentially void of societal pressure, then you should avoid the traps that society gives you, which is marriage and the creating of children. Because those two things single-handedly are going to hold you to that expectation. They're going to hold you to it. And that's why when you see child-free people, a lot of times they're keeping their money, they're enjoying their money, they are enjoying their free time. I know a lot of anti-natalists and child-free who are doing fairly well for themselves because they just didn't give a shit about that social institution. They didn't care to fall into the trap. And again, it just goes back to one more thing that that natalism, another flaw in it. You create life, another child, just to spend your life looking after that child and trying to maintain that child. And it's something that you can't break away from. So it's a bind. It's a double bind. And so that's another reason that men should take up antinatalism. You don't have to feel that stress of having to be this provider when the only person that you should provide for is yourself. The only person that you can provide for is yourself. But again, it depends on the type of man, because if you're the type that wants to adhere to this social expectation, then follow that route and be miserable and then complain about it. But if you want freedom, the key is rebellion. Don't fall into the trap. Stop giving a shit about what people think men should be. Live for yourself. Don't create children. Avoid marriage. And there you go. Live your life on your own basis. That's really the key. And I can take it further and apply it to women as well. I mean, you don't have to embrace motherhood. You don't have to embrace being a housewife. You can be your own person. You can live your life according to how you want to live it. You don't have to fit the traditional role of womanhood if you don't want to. So the individual is what's missing in both of these scenarios. People are giving themselves away in order to become one with the cog, to join the machine and surrender their self-worth. And the result of that is this social pressure that is received in turn, where you feel like you're constantly ineffective, or you're constantly lacking because you don't fit the social standard. So free yourselves from it, walk away from it. You don't need it. And it's something that is totally avoidable.